because I had to miss the last two colloquium committee because of committee assignments and search committees. So this is way more fun, particularly our conversation today in the research series about deepening our collaborations between IASC and the ECN and the workshop. I'll try to use as many acronyms as possible today. I'm really thrilled. So should we just start with some introductions, I believe? Is that fair to say?
Go for it.
Okay, let's do that. I'd love to get introduced to all of you guys. There's a lot of wonderful people on the call, some of which I know. Hello, everybody. This is great. And a lot that I don't still. So if you'd like to, yeah, absolutely. I see the chat box already being used. So yeah, let us know. Let us know if you have any links that you'd like to share. Please use that actively. I'll just offer maybe just a very quick intro about myself, and then maybe I'll even turn it over, Enza, if you'd like to likewise, maybe go next, and then we'd love to hear more from ISC and ECN and all of our wonderful fellows and affiliates and everybody else joining. So as you're probably aware at this point, I'm Scott Shackelford, so I have the pleasure of being the executive director of the Ostrom Workshop for the last couple of years now, and also run our research program on cybersecurity and internet governance, which is just one of our many research programs these days. Of course, Enza, along with being president of IASC, is also our current director of our Commons governance program, which is indeed, of course, in the very DNA itself of the workshop, carrying Lynn and Vincent's torch there. Though we have several other research programs these days as well, including political economy, the newly expanded environment and natural resource governance program, as well as the political economy program. So we'll put up some links in just a moment to those so you guys can check them out for reference. But in addition to those core research programs, you can kind of think about the workshop these days as trying to practice what we preach. So we have an increasingly polycentric structure, very much on purpose. So we have these research programs. We have a number, 20 plus now, working groups that you are able both to join, of course, the existing working groups and propose new ones. We try to make that process as easy as possible. So if you have an idea for a specific research area that you think would likely also, interest others and more broadly in the workshop community in the ISC, have at it. Just send me, send Enza, Emily Castle. We can put some email addresses in a moment, a note. We only really ask for a paragraph, and we can have a dialogue. We can push it out through listservs and help get meetings together and get the ball rolling. There's other ways that we're discussing both currently and looking ahead in the near term that I feel like the workshop can be useful and supportive to you guys if you're relatively new to the workshop community. A few of the existing opportunities are, of course, our Visiting Scholars program. That's been easier said than done, of course, given the pandemic, though we still welcome virtual visiting scholars. We're able to finally welcome in-person visiting scholars domestically and soon in the spring internationally, much more easily again. So if you haven't looked at the Visiting Scholars program for a while, we would love to have you come to the workshop, come to Bloomington. Those are for varying lengths of time. Sometimes it's for a few weeks, sometimes for a whole term. It varies. But the idea is you come in with an existing pairing with a workshop affiliate, some projects that you would like to work on with them and others. And we help to make sure that those connections are made. And depending the time of year you're coming, there's relevant courses and other events going on besides the colloquium and research series that we can plug you into as well. There's also a podcast that we have, the Governance Roundtable of the Ostrom Workshop, the GROW podcast. Would love to feature you guys, your work on that. We try to use that as a way just to, frankly, just help get the word out about really interesting new research in the area of commons governance specifically, and all the other related areas that the workshop is known for these days more generally. So that opportunity is there as well. And we're working on some hopefully new and exciting ones that we'll perhaps say more about after we hear from others. And that includes the Ostrom Summer Academy, where we're working on an intensive basically week-long experience to introduce early career, for example, scholars and practitioners about the core methodologies, the governance frameworks, the core literature really, and more broadly of the workshop, and also provide an opportunity for you to present your own work for constructive feedback. So we're working on that in conjunction with an incubator a workshop incubator that would allow, small groups of interdisciplinary scholars to come together, and we can provide some other tools and resources to help make that hopefully a bit more, useful and easier than it has been in the past. Potentially, we're going to do that in conjunction or like immediately before or after the Ostrom Summer Academy that I mentioned just a few moments ago. So we've been working on that and had just a wonderful conversation. What was that? Just last week with the ECN leadership. So I'm excited about where that's headed too. So I could go on and on, as you can tell, about the workshop. It's a fantastic and storied place. And we're now almost at the 50th anniversary of its founding back in 1973. So there's a lot of events that, of course, many got pushed back thanks to the pandemic, but we're now finally starting to be able to convene them, not only in Bloomington, but around the world. So we're actively seeking out partnership opportunities and would love to learn more about all of you, what you're working on, and what we can do to help support you. So that's probably too much for me to get this started. Inza, would it be helpful? Could I turn to you next? Would that be okay for an introduction and anything else you'd like to offer before we hear from ECN?
Yeah, sure. Great. So welcome, everybody. That's really part of my dream here, because your group really connects both the young ECN scholars from IASC and as well the research fellows at the Ostrom Workshop. So same as I, wearing two hats of IASC president and interim director of the Commons Governance Program. It's exactly the group we have here. So our and my future, so to say. So a really warm welcome. That's really fantastic. I think also Scott outlined already many things and dropped many words. So I can just say that's right. We have a very polycentric structure going on here. So if you haven't searched through the website carefully, you might feel lost quite at the moment. So just take your notes and keep asking us questions on the various things. Particularly, you can really get engaged with this Visiting Scholars program, the research series on Wednesday, where you are in right now, and on Monday, the research colloquia. Besides, my program on Commons Governance has also a listserv where you can sign up. So I'm trying at the moment once a month to send a very two-pager newsletter out with some activities we are doing. And the other two aspects Scott just mentioned about the Summer Academy and the workshop incubator, that's really in planning now. So don't get nervous if you do not find those two on the website. They are not there yet. Yeah, so maybe just a bit to structure it in your head. And I think taking it from there, I would rather be curious to hear all your questions so that we can make good use of the time, maybe directing you or answering it on the spot.
Thanks so much, Inza. That's fantastic. Totally agree. I'm wondering, would it be useful? I'm just thinking for the workshop folks joining in who might be not as familiar, perhaps, with the ECN. Maybe we could do just a very brief overview, Dane or anybody, about ECN and some of the things you guys are up to. And then, like you said, Inza, I think we just have a wonderful kind of open discussion from there. I think that'd be great. So I'm not sure, Dane, if you wanted to, yeah, please.
Yep. So Hita's going to represent the ECN for us. So I'll let you
great.
speak,
Perfect.
Hita.
Thanks a lot, Hita.
Thanks. I'm just going to give a short presentation, so I'm just going to share that. So the ECN, hang on, I'm trying to present this, yeah. How am I supposed to present this? Yeah, there we go. All right. So, we represent the IASC Early Career Network, which has about 98 members spread across the globe since we began operating in the summer of 2019 and a little earlier in the planning phase, of course. We operate by having monthly meetings with and for members since about February 2020, where we kind of offer space for people to receive and give feedback on ongoing work, sort of like what you mentioned, Scott, with the Ostrom Workshop as well. We also have a lot of networking and collaboration opportunities within the ECN as well as across other commons communities, such as the ongoing talks we've been having with the Ostrom Workshop, the first of which is this sort of introductory session that we are co-organizing, as well as the In Common podcast, where we've been sort of having our own little mini series. We have 2 working groups on interdisciplinarity and informal rules. We have 3 discussion groups that look at what commons are, in a sense of how do we understand the commons, polycentricity, as well as transitions in the commons. How do you bridge the transition studies and the commons field? Most importantly, we are friendly, we are fun, we are inclusive. The team is represented by Beryl, Maria, Dane, and myself. Yeah, you're free to get in touch with any of us for any questions. We've organized a bunch of stuff since we began operating. So we've had the Early Career Network meeting in 2020 in the middle of the pandemic. So we organized the whole thing online for the first time. So that was fun. We had a Latin America focused meeting in 2021. The Navigating Interdisciplinarity podcast, mini podcast series, which we host in collaboration with the In Common podcast. We've also been involved in the World Commons Week through keynote webinars, for which we encourage members to share some of their work and insights. And that's not all. We also do a lot of collaborative research papers, reading groups, event and job announcements, which meant to support the community and so on. We operate with an entirely online presence. So we use Zoom for meetings. We have a shared Google Drive where we put all our common memory as well as all the outputs that we've produced so far, the documents. We use Mural for brainstorming, and all thanks to Maria for that. We use Slack to communicate primarily with each other, organize ourselves into little groups, working groups, and so on and so forth. Of course, we also are getting into the email space. So you've had some of our announcements on email, members at least, in the last few days. So yeah, that's a very short presentation that we have about ourselves. Here are our contact details for any membership inquiries. Dane is the person to contact. And Dane, do you want to say anything about membership?
Yeah, sure, I'm happy to. I put the link in the chat for a membership. In order to be a member, you must be a member of the IASC, and I believe that the Ostrom Workshop does have a organizational membership with that. So you might be able to speak with Scott or Allison about getting added if you're not. And then just to kind of recap why we decided to have this meeting today. I think it's really important for the IASC ECN members who might be one person in their department working with the Commons literature to be able to see what the workshop offers from in-person type trainings or visiting scholars programs and mentorship, the summer school that's upcoming. These are really good opportunities to kind of get plugged into more of a physical network. And then for the Ostrom Workshop, for people who already are steeped in a culture of the Commons, also being able to get connected into a global network and understand different perspectives that are being brought into the Commons scholarship. So I think that's all I really have to say. I'd love to hear from y'all if you'd like to join the network. It's a lot of fun. We're also going to be hosting a session during the global conference next week, the IASC Global Conference. So please join that because we'll be talking about what are some future initiatives that we want to get started in addition to the working and discussion groups that we're currently running. So thanks for having us here.
No, thank you, Dane. Inza, just given your unique perch at both IASC and the workshop, but did you have any other reflections based on what you just heard from DCN that you wanted to share?
No, that's fine. I'm rather curious for your questions. I mean, maybe just now, as Dane mentioned, so we will have the IASC, we call it IASC actually, next week global conference. And there, of course, I mean, there's also the general membership meeting. All of you most of you should be members by now, so you received the agenda, so there's also place to discuss. Then Hita mentioned you will have your regional, your own group meeting within that, which will be accommodating another time zone. So it will be in the middle of the night for US people, but maybe better for some of you. And then besides, you are also all members of your regional IASC group. So make sure that you join that one as well. So there you can closely link the ECN thoughts with the regional activities going on. That's also a very important opportunity. But now we should turn back and talk about the Ostrom workshop for a while.
Yeah, no, happy to. You know, I could do again.
I'd also be remiss. Oh, I'm jumping a bit.
But Dane,
sorry.
yeah, go ahead. No, you're fine.
I froze for a second. I was going to say, I'd also be remiss not to mention Harini Nagendra, who was one of the people who started kind of opened up this conversation, the IU workshop and the ECN. So definitely want to make sure that we recognize her as well.
Oh, absolutely, Dane. No, well said. And in fact, that just reminded me because so much is going on. And I feel like we could be mutually useful in so many ways. So you mentioning Harini, Dane, what one thing, just so everybody's aware, one thing we're working on is to do, you know, obviously a lot to help with early career, you know, folks like yourselves, but also to engage, you know, the next generation after that in common scholarship. So we're working on a series of children's books, for example, right now, and some lesson plans for primary and secondary school teachers. We have a book about Lynn Ostrom, Lynn's Uncommon Life, coming out with IU Press next year, which is that was so much fun to work on. Emily Castle, our assistant director, and I worked on that this last year, wonderful pandemic project. But now, thanks to Harini, you know, and others, of course, we're going to be launching a series of commons themed children's books, starting with space. They're all going to be free, digitally available, but we're also going to do limited print runs and available in multiple languages. We're starting with space next month, the Space Commons one first, just because we just got a new grant from the Carnegie Endowment to do some new work on space governance. And we have a new postdoc coming from NYU to help lead that effort. And plus it's space. We have William Shatner going up next week. I mean, come on, right? How fun is that? So we're going to be doing children's books, in other words, around lots of different aspects of commons governance, of course. So, you know, climate, environmental justice issues, knowledge commons issues. So if any of you guys are interested, you know, in that kind of work as well, and finding ways to distill what you're doing, maybe as part of a broader impacts, et cetera, for your research, for whatever grants down there, whatever it might be, I'm happy to loop you into those conversations, because as I said, that bigger project is just getting started now that we've kind of proven the concept. So I'm excited about that. And Inza, I forgot to also mention, and just so that everybody's aware, and I hope you also take advantage of this, we do have that short video contest that's going on right now that the workshop is helping to sponsor. So as you might have seen some email traffic about, this is an opportunity to record, you know, very brief, you know, 5 or so minute videos that teachers, that professors, et cetera, can use in their courses to help introduce this content that we're all grappling with, right? To different audiences, starting frankly with primary school kids, going up to secondary, to university, et cetera. So it's a fun challenge to talk about something like polycentricity with a 7-year-old. Believe me, I've tried, and I encourage you to try, and to make it fun and engaging. So that's just kind of again a part of our broader efforts to, you know, teach the workshop, to kind of further educate, you know, commons governance, and to make these resources available, including as many states even here in the US are requiring civics education again, which I'm happy to see. So that's just a quick aside as well. So yeah, like I said, I'm happy to talk more about the workshop stuff generally, but if there are any specific questions, like I'm seeing one from Proac. I'm sorry, I'm just going to read that really quick. So thank you. Good, tangible question, right? Usually the easiest thing to do, if you don't know where to start, is just to, frankly, just email. I'm happy just to be the main point of contact to start with, and I'll just put my email address right there in the chat. You can also have a look, and this is another really easy thing you can do, at the workshop's existing affiliates list. It's quite lengthy. There's more than 300 active affiliates currently. And I'll put the link up here in the chat box. Thanks for bearing with. There it is. We're in the process right now of basically kind of migrating to a different platform. So soon you're going to be able to do things like do a search of all these affiliates based on, research interests or areas of expertise, specific methodologies like IAD, whatever it might be. We're not there quite yet, but I'd encourage you to take a look at that affiliate list. If you see, some affiliates or one affiliate working on a specific area that you're really excited about, really keen on, that's usually a wonderful way to get this conversation going as well. But as I said, I'm happy to help be a matchmaker. Enza, of course, is very, very able and capable of doing the same thing, as are our other program directors too. So that's usually the first step, finding that that kind of match, putting forward, a project, a proposal that you'd like to work on. And then the workshop can help basically by funding, funding your trip, taking care of the, incidentals, the travel costs, helping with the housing stipend, that kind of thing while you're here. So, and I have to say, just for what it's worth, thanks. Unfortunately, the one silver lining of the pandemic is that we have plenty of visiting scholar funding. We've been able to use it for quite some time.
I keep freezing. For the sake of the recording, that was a question about the Visiting Scholar Program, which is available to international students.
It absolutely is available internationally, yeah. And in a normal time, we have more than 20 visiting scholars a year, many coming from international, from abroad. And then I see two wonderful hands going up. Maybe Hita first, just in case there's something topical on this, and then Jamie, please.
Thanks, Scott. I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit more about the incubation thing that we discussed, research incubation that we were talking about.
Oh, happy to. Yeah. So this idea, kind of think about it in terms of like a small business startup incubator and how that usually works, right? Like you have a cadre of folks really interested in a similar issue, and it's kind of a beehive of activity with various mentors that can be called upon as needed to help. That's kind of what we're envisioning when this incubator is fully up and running. But as I said, for now, and given the ongoing pandemic, we're hoping to at least do, a beta test, a beta concept of it. Potentially as early as next summer, though, as Enza said, we're still in the planning phases here, and I'm happy to say that it looks like we're going to be able to have somebody from the ECN executive committee help with building out some of these offerings to make sure they resonate, frankly, well with you guys and the broader community. So the idea, though, is you would come, ideally physically come to the workshop, right? Because there are benefits to doing that. Not always possible, especially given these days public health related visa concerns, et cetera. So we've talked about maybe, again, just for this beta test, trying to do something of a virtual incubator. You lose something, obviously, but it does gain some flexibility. So we're still discussing kind of some options there. But in normal times, you would physically come and then work for some defined period of time. Again, it could be in conjunction with another offering like this intensive Ostrom Summer Academy. Maybe spend a week before or after, huddled together in a small group, pulling from various expertise at the workshop as needed to build out something. Could be a research paper. There could be a research paper tied to a specific proposal that you guys are all interested in working on, and it's an opportunity to make a lot of headway and hopefully get some really useful mentorship in that process. For a relatively compact, like I said, period of time. We do have the Visiting Scholar Program, of course, in place if you wanted to stay for much longer. But the idea for this is that it's going to be, like I said, pretty intensive. But hopefully that means that it's time well spent. So if anybody has suggestions, I know there's various opportunities like, well, not quite like this, I would say, but somewhat like this around. So the door is open, right? Virtually at least, but also physically for any around. I saw a couple of folks from Indiana, for example. Come on over. Love to hear your thoughts about ways that we can make sure as we build this out that it's as useful as possible. But as I said, it's still at an early phase. And then did that help, Hita, or was there something else that you wanted to hit on before we turn to Jamie?
No, I just wanted folk to get a sense of what that was all about as well.
Fantastic. Yeah, I know that's the idea. That's right. And there have been various experiments along those lines already that we've run at the program level, like huddling up on a specific paper and just basically doing a really intensive writing session, even for a day or two. It's amazing how much progress you can make if you have a game plan in place. And Jamie, please, and then we'll turn to Rashid.
Sure. Thanks, Scott. I have a couple of questions. One is we've spent a lot of time talking about visiting scholar programs or things that we would want people on campus for. Is there could we talk about like at least the couple of opportunities that we have now for people to get to know the workshop, particularly the colloquium series and the research series? Because those are virtual. You can attend those anytime this year, even if you're halfway across the world.
Yeah, no, totally. Good point, Jamie. So yeah, no special invitation needed. So every Monday and Wednesday, like we're using this slot right now at noon Eastern, we do run the colloquium series and the research series. The colloquium series has been the long-standing flagship series that Lynn and Vincent envisioned when they founded the workshop to begin with. I looked at the founding document not too long ago, and it was right there, and it's been running ever since, during a pandemic or otherwise, right? So it's a great chance to hear from, senior scholars in the field about all the interesting work that they're doing in all of these different research areas that we've been discussing around commons, environmental issues, knowledge commons, et cetera. So beam in whenever you can. The expectation is that you looked at the paper in advance. Sometimes it's easier said than done. We get that, but you're welcome to attend that. Same thing with the research series. The research series it's a little bit different. It's meant for historically at least, more junior, scholars, so perhaps assistant professors or postdocs, visiting scholars, of course. Though we've been experimenting with it more. We've introduced things like the Ostrom Book Club. So Eric Nordman, I see Eric on the line, and Eric wrote a fantastic, new book about the Ostroms, about Lynn in particular, that we're going to be highlighting in the Ostrom Book Club here in just, boy, is it next week? 2 weeks, really soon. And there's a number of other books coming out, including edited volumes that we'll be highlighting in that series. If you have suggestions for the Ostrom Book Club, let us know. We'd be happy to include those. So that's another reason to attend. And we also have working group reports in the research series as well. I know we have ones coming up on the political economy of pandemics, on space governance, on data, in this term. So that's a chance to learn more about what the working groups are up to, and to engage, where you think it might be useful and appropriate for you. So no, Jamie, thanks for teeing that up. And again, no special invitation needed. Please do jump on whenever you have the time, which I know at times those can be easier said than done. But we do record all of these, thanks to David Price on our staff, and they're up on the Ostrom Workshop YouTube channel. Which, if you've reached the end of YouTube, or even if you haven't, it's really fantastic. There's a lot of playlists that are themed, that are in some cases specific. Like we ran a whole ethics, values, and technology series last year. So there's a link to the Ostrom Workshop YouTube channel. Please do check it out. Cool. And then, did I miss anybody before, Rashid? Did anything happen while I was pontificating? Enzo, was there something you wanted to offer, or I'm happy to turn to Rashid?
Yeah, I want to answer a question, but I think Rashid was before that, or? So Rashid, go ahead.
Okay.
And then I take the other question up from Furek.
Perfect. Let's do that. Rashid, please.
So yeah, I am an IU alumni that is now living in Berlin. And I have been in conversation with the IU Gateway, and I'm not currently a member of this group, but I am exploring opportunities for developing an incubator specifically in the cooperative and shared ownership and community wealth space, as I view that as a stepping stone towards commons economy. And I would be interested in having further conversations with some of you folks, because I'm entering into this space from the design field. As a design researcher, I'm doing my PhD in Berlin. And I think that there are some real opportunities there. So you mentioned that it would be good to discuss potential working groups, etc. And I just wanted to sort of float that as a multi-level opportunity in Berlin with IU Gateway with these topics. and see if there's already anything happening in that space of design tools for governance and the design of polycentric institutions, etc. Those are the things that I'm really looking at right now. And thanks for having this call and making it open and available to us. Appreciate it.
No, thank you, Rashid. And just to give you I think that you bring up a lot of great points just on that last one around polycentricity. There's several wonderful networks, including the polycentricity, .net, but the polycentricity working group at the workshop that Bill Blumquist helped to stand up with Mike McGinnis and others just in the last year and a half. I think it's up to 175 members, really active. So encourage you and any others interested to check that out. And it's funny you mentioned Berlin. We're sponsoring an event at the IU Berlin Gateway. We're helping to sponsor, co-sponsoring it. I think it's today or tomorrow. And it's around, it's funny, right? It's around it's a collaboration, actually, believe it or not, with NATO has a think tank in Tallinn, the Cybersecurity Center of Excellence, and they're putting together a new edited volume about the rights of civilians and human rights in particular in times of both peace and conflict. And it's an interesting convening, but that's happening in Berlin. And we're actually going to be using the global gateways on the lead up to our big 50th anniversary and WOW 7 in just a couple of years to host kind of a series of regional convenings. So we are going to be doing something next fall that's going to be very workshop specific there as well. So in other words, I think that would be great. Maybe we can use that opportunity to meet up in person potentially and chat, because I think that'd be awesome. But Inza, please.
Yeah, I would like to respond to your question about, as a visiting scholar, do I have an opportunity to join the research program at the workshop? I think you're referring to the various research programs. So these research programs are nothing standing out there individually. I mean, there's nothing in themselves, not with people which are there. So actually we expect you, and that's a requirement, that you join them or one of them, or bringing ideas to one of them, because that's what actually makes these programs up, that we have a team of people here or abroad or with hybrid interaction, and then spreading out to various working groups that maybe fit to them or belong to them. There are also some working groups that might fit to 2 research programs. Maybe my current one with governing commons is a bit overarching, as it's more theoretically, analytically building the bridge between some of the others. So, but I think when you develop an idea why you want to come here or how you want to interact, it would be naturally that you think I'm more affiliated with that one or that one, and I want to work with that person or that person, and that's what makes this research program up.
Well said. Thank you so much, Enza. That's right. Okay, we have a few. Jamie, yeah, please.
Yeah, I posed a general question in the chat just because I was curious. How many of you want to learn about the core texts that the Ostroms produced? Because sometimes we forget that we don't know those that we don't know those texts. We come to the work through various means. So yeah, several of you responded. I would love to. So I think if you are interested, send me a direct message and put your email in that message, because right now I can collect the list of names of people who are interested, but I don't have your email. So yeah, send your email my way.
Yeah, I could even see, doing something of a reading club, to kind of go through, some of those key works. You're absolutely right, Jamie, because my goodness, I still open even just to a random page occasionally and find insights. So if you haven't read them in a while or have never read them before, I think that's a wonderful use of time. Absolutely. To Jindra, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Scott. Yes, we sure can.
Yeah, thank you. I have a question like that, like in the same line, like whenever we were talking about this Ostrom workshop and how early career could participate. So when we are developing, suppose that we have a particular, it's not a common is a very overarching framework, but somehow people talking about, like, I work on a forest rights or indigenous people's rights. So so how do you see that interdisciplinary research in that context? Like, is it welcomed or not?
Oh, very much so. In fact, one of our current Ostrom fellows and actually several, I think, awardees as well. Stephanie, I'm thinking of you, are doing some really interesting work on urban forestry as well as kind of forest governance more generally. And I don't believe, we currently have a specific working group, for example, on that. But to Jindra, to my point earlier, why don't we start one? You know what I mean? So this is the kind of idea, notion I have in mind, even though we have research programs, including the commons, including environment and natural resource governance, that certainly would touch on areas of forestry. It's polycentric, right? So kind of picture a series of overlapping, Venn diagram here, right? So if you want to focus on something like forestry, I think there's a lot of folks similarly interested, and there's nothing stopping us from starting these working groups. They're supposed to be very organic, very self-organized from the bottom up in classic fashion. So just send me a note. I'd encourage you, just like Jamie suggested a minute ago, send me a note. We can send it out through the listservs. We can get some critical mass together. Stephanie, we can involve you, others, and have at it. Inza, please, and then we'll turn to Maria.
Yeah, just a quick reply to Jamie and also the offer about sending material. I mean, there's also a lot of it been done already, so we should make also use of these two networks we are right about to merge here. So there's this teaching material you can find on the Ostrom Workshop website, and also under IASC, if you go to resources. There are also many books, for instance, the one from Marco Jansen about sustaining the commons, which is there as a textbook to be downloaded in English and in Spanish, and some other materials. So we should maybe also think if there's something in addition what we want to upload, but make use of the existing platforms we have already. Maybe instead of sending 100 emails to Jamie now to send us in reply some textbooks. Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I totally agree. Thanks, Inza. Yeah, Maria, please.
Yeah, one of my questions was, first of all, thank you for being here and inviting us. But then also, like, in the IAC, a couple of our members from the ECN network are like more on the practitioner end, so to say. So I was wondering if and how are maybe some options of incorporating that into the incubator ideas and somehow, like, just as an idea, right? If we could move in a direction that way, if that makes sense potentially as well. It just pretty much popped up into my head, to be honest.
Yeah. Should I take that question, Scott?
Yeah, please.
Feel free, Inza. Yeah, that's fine.
So there are two initiatives we are also currently discussing. That's also something you won't find on the website right now because it's still circulating across our desks, that we want to expand the visiting scholars program also to a practitioner visiting program. So, but they come, of course, with different expectations. They might have a certain applied project in mind, or maybe they want to run a little survey that gives them feedback on their own activities. So we need to explore a bit how that actually should look like, that both groups can make good use of it. And the second thing I'm starting to implement, but that of course takes a while, is something what we call impact stories. So there will be one in 3 weeks from now on a Wednesday where we invite practitioners, but they are also linked to academia, and they will tell a bit how the academic background or how the commons theory help them in developing their rather applied project or their advertising or their, whatever they run as. I mean, activists do thousands of things, so, and usually they are very grateful if we give them structure or frameworks or a certain terminology so that they can exchange with others. And if I say we as scientists, we are usually very grateful for their impact, for their really on the ground problem solving orientation. So that's, first of all, that's on our agenda, but it's also a bit tricky to make that happen into really lively events where not the scientists just grab the data, but it should also be the other way around, that the practitioners really get something out of that. So it requires careful planning, but it's on the way.
Yeah, that was very, very well said. And it is very much on our radar. And frankly, that's one of the things that attracted me to the workshop to begin with, was its applied nature, right? That's been happening for decades. And we want it to be a very welcoming place to practitioners. That's been happening already kind of by default and informally. But as Inza is saying, we're hoping to formalize that with an actual visiting practitioners as well as visiting scholars program. And to your point, Maria, about incorporating folks like that, practitioners, into the incubator concept, having especially even special programming for them as part of maybe an Ostrom Academy. I think that'd be wonderful, right? And that's part of, I think, what the workshop, should be. And I think Len, frankly, would really appreciate that. So no, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, so really the next event related to that is on water governance, and it will be on the 27th of October, where we invite as practitioner Anne McKinnon to the workshop, and discussant will be Bill Blomqvist. So both are well known in the area. So if you're in general interested how that works, please join. But particularly for those advising water governance or writing on water issues, that would be a good opportunity to join as well. So it's under the Wednesday research series on the internet.
That's right. Thanks for calling that out. That's going to be a jam-packed day. I'm excited for the 27th. Dane, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to open it up to anybody in the Ostrom Workshop or new people to the Early Career Network who have joined this call today as well, to ask if there, or to invite any questions about benefits or opportunities or what we're planning to do, or suggest ideas. We've been asking a lot of questions of the workshop, so I just want to make sure that you have an opportunity to have any questions answered.
Yeah, no, thanks a lot, Dane. And we do have a number of our Ostrom Fellows and research awardees on the call in particular, many of which, as you said, are new to IASC. So if any of you guys do have questions about ECN, et cetera, or IASC, we have Inza on as well, after all, please feel free. And while folks are thinking, oh no, please go ahead. Yeah.
Hi, so I'm Eric Nordman, and I was a visiting scholar at the Ostrom Workshop in 2019 and 2020 when I was on sabbatical. So I'm not an early career scholar, but I just wanted to give a plug for that and encourage people to apply. It was fantastic, great experience. I live in Michigan, so it was about 5 hours away. So they were very flexible for working with me. I could come in for a few days and then go back home. And I did that twice a month for, several months until COVID shut everything down. But, just immersing yourself even for a few days, using the library, talking to people, just wandering the halls and being, inspired by everything. It was just a fantastic experience. So I really recommend it.
It's very kind of you. Thanks, Eric. Yeah. I mean, just the artistic artifacts alone, I think, are worth a trip, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So thank you very much. It was really life-changing. So I appreciate it.
Well, we really appreciate it. I can't wait to celebrate your new book in just a few weeks in the book club, Eric. And then I think I saw Hannah's hand next, and then we can turn to Diego and to Jamie. Yeah. And if you wanted Hannah to mirror a bit of an intro, please feel free. That Eric just gave.
Hi, thanks a lot. I'm listening to everything with great excitement. I work as assistant professor at the University of Warsaw, and currently I pursue my research on how to implement Ostrom's methodology to heritage regimes and actually to international legal regimes. So I believe it's still something that is under-researched, but I would be really very happy to establish contacts with people working in heritage field. I myself also am a practitioner. I do ethnography of UNESCO and of Intangible Cultural Heritage Convention, but I also work on the self-governmental level for the city of Warsaw. We are introducing programs on intangible heritage, and we are trying to introduce the concept of the commons into this field and into working with the local communities in Warsaw. So I'm very much interested in establishing contacts and possibly also coming next semester as a visiting scholar. So yeah, so many thanks for this event and for all the very, very useful information. And I will be happy to learn if there's anybody doing similar issues. Thank you.
I think you saw some nodding heads, Hannah, because several of us are. My background is I did a JD and a PhD in international relations, and I'm really interested in polycentricity and international law and relations, frankly. So I would love to chat with you, and there are many others, both senior workshoppers like Mike McGinnis, who's very interested in similar issues, and lots of others that we can connect you with as well. So fantastic. I love it. Thank you so much, Hannah, for joining, and I'd love to continue the conversation. Diego, perhaps next, and then Jamie.
Hello, everyone. Great to see you all here. I have a question for the IASC. Given the fact that I am researching polycentricity and governance in the opera, that is a very international field, and there are research that has to be done in multiple places of the world to understand how this really works. I am wondering which kind of research support has the IASC for us as research awardees or Ostrom fellows that we can try to be able to use for our research.
It's basically about networking opportunities. So one straightforward one is you can go through the membership directory and search for certain keywords. So that, of course, is based on that you all put your right keywords in there, because we can only find in the data bank information which other people put in there. So that directory is great, but it's a commons in itself. Having said that, you can also, if you look at past events, there was this conference on commons in the Anthropocene. Maybe there's something more related to your issue. So we can also explore it a little bit by searching if you pass by my office, so we can have a look. But in general, it's about, IASC is not offering its own research programs. It's all about providing a platform and a network and various opportunities to join and find colleagues. So if that's what you need, then we should have a good offer for that.
Thanks a lot, Enza. And thank you, Maestro. It's a good question. And we forgot to add, for those who might not be familiar, that what Enza just said, that just, it rung a bell for me, because that was one of the reasons that Lynn helped to co-found IASC to begin with, right? Was to establish just these types of international networks of common scholars. So that's why I think us getting these bands back together is just so beneficial all around. So yeah, Jamie, please.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. That actually, you're angling towards where I wanted my question to go, which is for those of us who may have come to the Ostroms work through the workshop but are less familiar with IASC, could you or Insa give us a little background on it, like when Lynn helped to found it, and yeah, kind of what her goal was for the organization. My understanding is that it was sort of occurred at the same time that she and Vincent were finding that their research agenda started differing from public choice, which they had helped to found. So yeah, but I'm not sure what happened after that.
So may I just kindly invite you to a session we will have on Monday on the general conference, which is exactly about that. And Mike McGinnis will prepare a little talk on that. So I will not surprise you now with other aspects. I think that's the right point. It's a Monday afternoon, and that's exactly about the history, why they started it, what the links are. So that would be a good spot to well prepared listen to that.
Thank you, Insa.
Stay tuned. That's right. And I am looking forward to that discussion. That's going to be a lot of fun. So if that's not already on your IASC conference radar, I do hope you can attend that as well. Any other final kind of questions? We have about, it looks like, 7 or 8 minutes left. Anything else on people's minds that we can help with? I saw just so many wonderful introductions happening in the chat. We will save the chat as well. But if you haven't already, feel free, to use that to introduce yourself, your work. And one thing I forgot to add, just like IASC has a fantastic newsletter, the workshop as well has a polycentric circles, right? Our newsletter that goes out. Right now it's bi-weekly, hosted. Thanks again to David Price for that. So if you have, if you're not already, become an affiliate, let us know about the research that you're doing, cool opportunities for the community, and we'll make sure to highlight those in the newsletter as well, which goes out to thousands. So, are there any other questions that we can help with, either ECN or Inza, myself? I see Angie on the line as well. Welcome, Angie. Anything else we can help with?
I'll just mention,
yeah, please,
at risk of cutting out because my internet's unstable, that Hita mentioned she's been getting a number of inquiries about how to join the ECN. If you'd like to join, there is a form linked on the webpage that I just shared in the chat. And then you're also welcome to email me directly, and I'll send you that link. I can put my email in the chat as well. But we'd love to have you. And again, we're going to be having our kind of general and planning meeting during the general conference next week. So we'd love to see you join there, or join for our monthly meetings, or just get connected into the community through our Slack channel.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Dane. That's really, really helpful. And I'd encourage folks to subscribe to both podcasts, and we're exploring ways as well to join forces on the podcast front. You might have noticed for the subscribers to the Grow podcast that we're doing a new great digital debate series, which has been a lot of fun. And Angie was one of the guinea pigs, one of the debaters there, debating the right to privacy in the digital age, which was wonderful. So similarly, if you have ideas for podcast episodes, we were hoping to start to do this kind of audio postcards from the field. So kind of little insights here and there from field work you might be doing. Happy to include those as well. Anything we can do to help, trumpet your work. And as you said, Inza, better connect. Inza, anything else from you before we close here in just a minute, or from others at ECN?
No, I'm just really looking forward to seeing you all through next week's events.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And do remember to check out as well the short video contest that we're running. We're really excited about it. Hope we get some wonderful content that's really going to help with the teaching page. And of course, there's monetary incentives as well. Anything else from Hita, Dane? Anything from you guys from ECN before we close? Okay. If not, this has been so lovely. It's so wonderful to see you all. Please don't be strangers. Obviously these days it's tough, we're still with some of the in-person stuff, but don't be virtual strangers. And we hope to welcome you physically to the workshop as well, either, perhaps as early as you said, Anna, as next spring, which would be lovely. We do have our call for visiting scholars going out, and deadlines are coming up in the spring. So you can be on the lookout for that, and be on the lookout as well, as Inza was saying, for more information about the Ostrom Summer Academy, about the incubators that we're working on. And our door is always open, as I said. So if you have other ideas for ways in which the workshop can be useful, if you'd like to get involved, for example, perhaps in one of these regional convenings that we're discussing, again, it's early in the process, but we're doing this one in Berlin for sure. We're talking about some other convenings using the IU Global Gateways, perhaps in Mexico City, or in New Delhi, or in Bangkok, or in Beijing, whatever it might be, let us know, and would love to loop you into that. And don't forget, WOW 7 as well is coming up in just a couple years, and there's going to be a series of other events that we have in the planning phases. So would love to see you at any of those that might be interesting. And as Jamie said, hopefully you can start attending, if you're not already, the colloquium and the research series, perhaps as early as next Monday, when we're going to be featuring Art Carden, and next Wednesday, of course, when we're going to have a really nice discussion, which I'm actually, no, not next Wednesday. Next Wednesday is off. Don't come next Wednesday at noon. Okay, come October 20th. I'm glad I looked, when we have Jane Sell from Texas A&M. And then October 27th is our banner afternoon with Eric. And then, as you said, Inza, and Bill talking about water governance as well in rural America. So wonderful.
Next Wednesday, instead, you can join the session on how to get most of your IASC membership run by Kevin. Exactly. So you can see some planning happening in the background on purpose here. So lovely. Thank you all. Enjoy the rest of the of your afternoons, of your evenings, of your mornings, depending on the time zone. And please don't be strangers.
Thanks, Scott. Thank you, everyone.